Chapter 122 of Chainsaw Man is probably one of the most insane and exciting chapters that we've gotten in quite a while. I mean, I think we just saw the freaking Death Devil actually arrive in this chapter. No, this is not a drill. This seems for real this time. Regardless of that though, we have so much to go into in this chapter, so we're just gonna jump right into it. So surprisingly enough, we kick off this chapter with none other than Yoshida and Fami the Famine Devil. It actually turns out that Yoshida invited her out to eat, and Fami starts ordering like a ton of stuff on the menu, and even funnier than that, requests that she gets 5 of each item that she ordered. It's kind of playing on that whole old phrase, feast or famine, right? Well, we don't waste any time here because we get right into the meat and potatoes of what Yoshida wants with Fami when he says recently on the streets there's been this urban legend floating around, Nostradamus' prophecy. And Nostradamus is a real figure in our world. He was a philosopher way back in the day, but apparently he also exists in Chainsaw Man and has this prophecy where on July 1997, the King of Fear will be descended from the sky. Nostradamus' prophecies describe such an event, predicting the extinction of mankind. And Yoshida even goes on to explain how they did an experiment with 30 prisoners where they made contracts with the future devil in exchange for an earlier release. And the results of the experiment were pretty damning because they found out that 23 of the 30 inmates were actually told that they would die at the same time in July of 1999. And Yoshida pretty much tells Fami that he knows that she has something to do with this prophecy, he just doesn't know exactly what. And if she doesn't cooperate with him, then him and the organization he works for would have no choice but to treat her as a devil or deal with her as a devil. And I think it's pretty crazy that Yoshida is just straight up making threats to a horseman of the apocalypse, like one of the most powerful devils that exist. So of course this is just continuing to build on the mystery of Yoshida and exactly what his deal is. I mean, if he can so nonchalantly make a threat like this, it means that either him or the organization that he works for has a pretty serious trump card to dealing with these horsemen of the apocalypse. Well, in response to this, Fami just says that the other 7 prisoners that didn't get an expected death date of July 1999 will actually die this week. And of course we don't know really what she means by this, and we get no further details, so we're kind of just left guessing as to what she means and how she even knows that this is going to happen. But this isn't even the crazy thing that she says, because she then goes on to say that about 40 seconds ago, a devil appeared that's the first devil responsible for making the world fall into the abyss of fear. That name is the true source of fear, and that name is, and that's where things cut off. And before I continue to where this goes in the chapter, Fami's response here is very vague and it's very abstract, but when she says that it's the first devil responsible for making the world fall into the abyss of fear, pretty much stating that it's like the first fear that ever existed, we kind of have to assume that she's talking about the Death Devil, right? Especially considering what we saw happen in front of Asa, assuming that this is the devil that she's talking about, where this random guy just fell to his death, and Asa was even talking right then and there about how she feels that she would be better off dead. It all seems like it was kind of setting up the Death Devil's arrival, and what Fami says here describing that devil kind of verifies it for me, but there still is some room to kind of speculate exactly what this devil might be, because it's not exactly cut and dry, and you guys will kind of see what I mean in a second. Because we then cut to this random couple that's sitting and hanging out in their apartment, and it's this conversation between this guy and his girlfriend where he's talking about him getting a new promotion at work and he'll be making more money, and you know, she's super excited for him. Kind of just a regular mid-20s couple conversation going on. But suddenly, like as they're talking, the man pauses and then randomly says, "Hey, wouldn't it be better if we would be dead?" And the girl just straight up agrees with him. So now seeing this, we can kind of go back to that moment where Asa was really down on herself and declared that she would be better off dead, and assume that it might have been the influence of this devil that caused her to think this way. I mean, of course, the things that she was upset about and her fears and just depression about being alone might be very real, but it does seem like there's a good chance that her just straight up deciding that she wants to die was due to this devil. So we then get a shot of this couple jumping off of the building and crashing right to the ground, and immediately after that we see everybody in the apartment complex that was just staring blankly at Asa in the previous chapter suddenly jump off the apartment building as well and crashing down to their deaths. Yoru pulls out a ruler sword, but she seems visibly distraught, like actually really scared in this particular scenario, because all the bodies that just fell from that apartment complex start to merge together into one entity. And this is when Yoru realizes that she was wrong, she judged the situation wrong, there's no way that she can fight this opponent. And what this pile of bodies turns into is this headless figure that honestly, in my opinion, has a very close resemblance to the Darkness Devil, and it looks pretty gnarly. I can't really figure out whether or not this is like its complete form or it's still kind of merging into the being that it's going to become. But just going back to what happens just before we get introduced to this new devil, and the fact that Fami kind of introduced it as this insanely powerful, more than likely primal fear devil that has just arrived. I mean, the fact that it seemingly can make other people convince themselves that they would be better off dead, that just screams Death Devil to me, right? Like, that just seems like an ability that they would have. And on top of that, the form that it seems like this devil is taking currently is the form of a woman. So kind of taking a look at the other horsemen of the apocalypse, it would make perfect sense that the final horseman is also a woman like the other three have been. Now, could this somehow be the introduction of the Darkness Devil and not the Death Devil? That's also very possible because, again, the form that this devil is taking very much looks like the form of the Darkness Devil, and it could have happened to where the Darkness Devil was able to reach Earth through the ability that the Hell Devil has to create gates that bridge the gap between the world that the devils live in and the world that the humans live in, and kind of had to take on a new form to actually manifest in the human realm. I think it's more likely that it's the Death Devil here, but that is also a possibility. Now, a third and less likely possibility, I still think it might be something that is a little bit lesser than the Death Devil, but still extremely powerful, like the unaliving yourself devil, or the isolation, or some devil that kind of revolves around people's fear of being alone or something that they are missing, like something that makes them feel empty. Because we also see in the scene where that random couple jumps out of the building, that guy's talking about buying a car, and for some reason his girlfriend's telling him like, no, you're not buying a car. But when they go to jump out of the window, he looks at a car in the parking lot and just says car just before they jump. So it might be a devil that kind of plays on the ability where it finds the things that you desire most or the things that you're missing most and cranks it up to an extreme that it makes you feel like you no longer want to be alive. Regardless of what this devil is, there is no doubt that Asa, and more than likely Denji as well, are truly in for one of the craziest battles that they have ever been in their entire lives.